And maybe I can encourage you today that everything is in God's timing. You don't have to find yourself wrestling with when you want things to happen, like now, now, now. But in this time of Advent, especially in this day, this week, we're reflecting on hope. Can I encourage you to slow your life down? Just slow yourself down and respect what God is doing, the way that God is working in your life and working through things in your life. Have that humility, have that respect for what God is doing, and ultimately wait. Prepare your heart in waiting in the hope that you have that God will ultimately make these things happen. You know, the Apostle Paul in the letter to the Galatians says something really interesting in Galatians 4. He says, when the fullness of time had come, God sent his son. You know, so many people might ask, why didn't Jesus come like yesterday? Why did he have to come 2,000 years ago? Why doesn't he come now and then he can, just walk among us today? Some other people might say, well, why did Jesus come 2,000 years ago? Why not 4,000 years ago, right? That's a good question. I think that's a great question. But ultimately, it's in God's wisdom and God's timing that these things happen. It's in God's wisdom and God's timing that Jesus came, that he was sent. As Paul would say, when the fullness of time had come, God sent his son. These things, when we wait with hope, when we wait with expectation, we're expecting that God will do something. We're expecting that God we will find himself true to his character, to his promises, all of these things. It's so important for us to reflect on that as God's people. Amen? In the Greek language, there is a word for hope, right? In the Greek in the New Testament. And in the Hebrew language, there's a word for hope. Now, both of these words you might think are kind of somewhat related, but it's interesting to me as I was doing my study that these words are actually somewhat a different facet of what hope looks like. The Greek word is elpis, and elpis, it talks about expectation, but specifically it's talking about expectation that you place in someone who is trustworthy. That when you know somebody's character, you know who they are, you know what they are, who they're like and all those things. When you have hope, you're hoping in that person's character. You're hoping in who they present themselves to be, who you know them to be. The Hebrew language is a little different. That Hebrew word for hope is tikvah. And tikvah is a word that's used to express hope, but it's more synonymous or referring literally to like a cord or a rope, something that you hold on to, something that you would wrap your arm around or cling to with your hand. That's really what hope is. That's what it means in the Hebrew language, something that you hold on to. And haven't we heard that before? You hold on to hope. What thing to say? Hold on to hope. It's like that. I think that actually gives us a better idea of what it looks like in the Hebrew language. Hold on to hope. When things get tight, when things get tense, when that string becomes stretched out, just hold on to hope and trust in the one who's on the other side, the one who's holding the other side. What I love about it, too, is that it's not really a passive way of thinking. It's not just like thinking nice or thinking optimistically, but to actually have hope in the Hebrew language is for you it implies that tension, that waiting, that expectation, that dependence on someone else. You're holding on. You have that tikvah that's just in you that says, I know who God is. I trust that God is going to bring me through. And so you hold on to hope in those moments. I think that those two words give another facet to what hope really looks like in the Bible. Trusting in God's character because you know him, because he's trustworthy, but also to hold on to the promises of God, holding on to God and waiting with expectation, even when things get tense, even when things get stretched out, even when it's been years that you've been praying for something and it just hasn't happened yet. Can I encourage you to lean into what God is doing in your life? God is going to show you the purpose. I know it. And in this Advent season, we take some time to slow down. We take some time to prepare our hearts for the coming of Jesus, the reflecting of Jesus coming as a baby. And for this particular week, we're looking at the word hope. We're looking at what it means to wait with expectation, to see what God will do, even when we feel, even when we just feel like things are taking longer than we had hoped.